You've made it to book 8. Many congratulations. And we are getting right into the heart of the Odyssey now, coming up towards Odysseus' big show, his big story, which is going to be books 9 to 12. But before we get there, we've got book 8 and the Phaeacian Games. So to start with, key events. Oh, it's Athene once again, isn't it? She's here the whole time making sure Odysseus is being kind of looked after and protected. So firstly, she gathers all the Phaeacians together for the games. She also beautifies Odysseus before he goes out over there. And it says in line 19, she invested his head and shoulders with a divine beauty and made him seem taller and broader. If that's what you think divine beauty is, then or you didn't know, then that's clearly what the Greeks thought. And when he throws his discus, she shouts out from the crowd, "Whoop whoop! He's the guy!" All that sort of stuff. So there's Athene helping. The other thing I think is really interesting is we get these songs from Demodocus, the bard. Now, yes, there are he sings some stories. That's all part of the entertainment. But actually, isn't it partly also a tribute to the concept of bards and a tribute and an autobiographical little window into what Homer's life must have been like? So it just gives us a little sense about what's it like to be a bard, what kind of things would a bard do, and how would they perform their songs, which I think are really nice. And then thirdly, these memories that are triggered by the songs are so moving and so profound that actually Odysseus starts crying, and Alcinous has to stop the song and has to say, "Look, hang on, just hold it up, everybody. Who are you? Come on now." He says to Odysseus, "Now speak and tell us truly, where have you been driven in your wanderings? What parts of the inhabited world? Tell us your story." And so that's how we move into books 9 to 12, which is going to be Odysseus' story. So there's our key events. Bit of Athene, bit of Bardic, and a bit of identity. While we're here, we've got this issue of sport. Now, sport's an important part of Homer's world, isn't it? The first Olympics, 776 BC, most people think that Homer was actually written down somewhere around 750, might even have been there for something that Homer himself witnessed or knew about, could have been in his lifetime. So we've got sport as a central part of Greek life. And here it is in the Phaeacian Games. It's derived from military training, so that's why the kind of activities you get are the foot race and wrestling and throwing. You could get a little vague sense of it from the little picture I put in the top right-hand corner there. And it offers heroes the chance to excel just the same way they would do in war. So even today, when we have sporting contests, we often talk about, we use terms like battle or that you had to fight for the ball or whatever it might be. We use the same language in sport as they would have done in war. And so here's a sporting activity which is shown off by Homer. It's resonant partly because there are sporting games in the Iliad as well, the other poem of Homer. And it picks up this concept of heroism, and Odysseus obviously successful because of his heroic nature. Page 26, in terms of the style and narrative techniques, we've got the idea of the epithets again. So if you'd like to have a look at the puns to start with, they're on the bottom of page 97. You can just jot those down. There's a little footnote at the bottom of page 97 in our text. There are also 9 epithets for Odysseus and 5 for Alcinous. I'm not telling you them. You can find them yourself. But have a little search around, see whether you can find them in the text. But there are a range of epithets of the gods, which I think are great. There's a whole load of them. You can look some of these up. My favourites, Aphrodite of the lovely diadem. A diadem's a type of crown. Hermes, the swift runner, gets across the idea of Hermes as a messenger. Poseidon, girdler of the earth. So there's like a girdle that goes around the earth, which is, of course, how the sea goes around the earth. Possibly the best one I like is laughter-loving Aphrodite. What? Laughter-loving, that's the way to do it. Spike Milligan said, "A day without laughter is a day wasted." You don't know who Spike Milligan is, maybe, but that doesn't matter. You need laughter. So there's some stylistic things, puns and epithets, which go with the sort of similes and with the repetition and the multiple examples we talked about in previous videos. And then finally, character developments. Odysseus and the simile in lines 524 to 531 are really remarkable. Very, very odd, aren't they? Odysseus cries like one of the defeated women from Troy. Now, this is odd, isn't it? He was the one who brought about the defeat for the Trojans with the trick of the Trojan horse. But if we want to understand the depth of pain that he's going through, having been away from home for so long, we have to imagine him as the opposite of what we were expecting. And actually, what's happening to him is that the Trojan woman here, she weeps when he throws her arms around the body of her beloved husband, fallen in battle at the defense of his city, fighting to save his city. She has found him gasping in the throes of death. She clings to him, wailing and lamenting. But the enemy come up and beat her back and shoulders with spears as they lead her off into slavery. That's capturing quite how painful it has been for Odysseus in all this time. So even though he's the winner, war in the end has kept him away from his home for 19 years. And the living through these events again, through the song, triggers all the pain, and that's why he weeps so much. So it's a really interesting thing about Odysseus' character, isn't it? He isn't quite the macho hero who doesn't have any contact with his emotions at all. Actually, he's moved, vulnerable, and in pain as well. So that's your book 8, and we're about to go on now to Odysseus' story.